Breaking news from Texas Tech Athletics is leading to another shakeup in leadership for a Red Raider team that has already faced its share of adversity. We'll have a look at the details surrounding the suspension of head men's basketball coach Mark Adams.
In less than a day, Tech students will have the chance to take part in an important process that will help determine the leadership of the student body for the next school year. Find out how you can cast your vote and make your voice heard.
And several teams were in action over the weekend, both on the court and the diamond, and all hoping to put another mark in the win column. MCTV's Joshua Ermis will have the rep on another busy weekend in sports.
This is the MCTV Weekday Update.
Welcome to the Monday edition of the MCTV Weekday Update. I'm Elene Khajishvili.
And I'm Makayla McDonnell. Texas Tech fans were caught off guard yesterday after an unexpected announcement left one Texas Tech athletic team without a leader only days before the beginning of postseason play.
MCTV's Joshua Ermis joins us now in studio with the latest details on this developing story. Joshua?
Thanks, Elena and Makayla. Of course, the biggest story coming out of the weekend is the suspension of Texas Tech men's basketball head coach Mark Adams. The news broke around noon on Sunday that Texas Tech head athletic director Kirby Hocutt suspended Adams after he had been informed of a, quote, inappropriate, unacceptable, and racially insensitive comment Adams made toward a Red Raider basketball player last week, according to a formal announcement on TexasTech.com. Following the announcement, Stadium.com released a story featuring an interview with Coach Adams. Adams states that he made a reference to the Bible and said, quote, "There is always a master and a servant." Adams also said in his defense, "I was quoting a scripture. It was a private conversation about coaching when you have a job and being coachable." Coach Adams said he did speak to the team about the incident but did not apologize for his comments. The Stadium article also reports a separate incident earlier this season where Adams allegedly spit on one of the players during a game. Adams responded to the claim stating that he had a bad cough and slobbered on the player. One source said he told the player, "I can spit on you whenever I want to." Adams denied the statement. Kirby Hocutt originally issued a written reprimand, but later decided to suspend Adams. With Adams suspended, the school will conduct further investigations into the incidents and any other potentially questionable interactions between Coach Adams, his players, and his staff. Texas Tech is set to begin the Big 12 tournament later this week. It is unsure who will take Adams' place as interim head coach. This is an ongoing investigation, and hopefully more facts will be revealed in the coming days. Back to you, Makayla.
Thanks, Joshua. In other news, Texas Tech students will soon be able to have their voices heard as they select new leadership for the student body. The Texas Tech Student Government Association's election season is officially underway. Last night, the SGA hosted the annual Executive Candidate Forum in the Matador Room in the Sub. Candidates for the graduate, internal, and external vice president positions, as well as student body president, came to the stage to give remarks and answer questions about each of their platforms. This year's candidates for graduate vice president are Audrey Helm and Hunter Robinson. The students running for internal vice president are Emily Sanderson and Jake Zimmerman. Kara Ashworth and Kendall Tolley are up for external vice president, and the students running for the top position of student body president are Aliana Mayfield and Joel Rivero. All of the executive candidates will be listed on this year's SGA election ballot, which will go live tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and continue through Wednesday until 7 p.m. Along with the SGA leadership positions, students will also have the chance to vote on senators for each of the university's 10 colleges, the law school, university studies, and graduate school. To cast your ballot, visit ttu.edu/vote.
Just over a week ago, people from all over the South Plains, including Texas Tech, gathered in downtown Lubbock to celebrate entertainment, pop culture, and much more during a unique local event. LubbockCon 2023 took place at the Lubbock Memorial Civic Center during the weekend of February 25th and 26th. The convention featured a wide variety of vendors, activities, contests, and panel discussions. Many attendees showed up in costumes from their favorite sci-fi or fantasy comics, TV shows, or films, stopping to take pictures with other guests at the convention. 2023 marks as the return of LubbockCon here in the Hub City after a 3-year hiatus that started during the pandemic. Organizers said that bringing the convention back was more difficult than they had expected.
It's been a little hard. It's almost like starting completely over. It's not only for the attendees, but also the vendors and even our own volunteers. We've kind of had to get out of that rut that we all stayed in during COVID and all that. So we pretty much started over again.
Along with the fun options for all guests, costumed attendees also had the chance to participate in an adult cosplay contest on Saturday and a kids cosplay contest on Sunday. There was also a free arcade and kids activities. The next Lubbock Con is planned for early 2024. The South Plains area saw another weekend of windy conditions, with gusts reaching speeds as high as 45 to 50 miles per hour yesterday afternoon.
Although the wind was still a problem, it was nowhere near as bad as the previous weekend that featured 70-mile-per-hour winds. So are gusty conditions back in the forecast this week? Let's take a look at the MCTV forecast. The MCTV Tower Cam is currently showing mostly cloudy skies, but those clouds are starting to move out of the area. Temperatures are once again a bit warmer than normal, with highs expected to top out at or above 80 degrees. Luckily, the winds are light and should stay below 15 miles per hour. Tonight, we'll continue to see some clouds in the sky, and temperatures will drop off into the 40s, but we should stay above the freezing mark. Winds will also remain light throughout the night. Tomorrow's conditions should be very similar to today, but it will be slightly cooler in the afternoon. Highs are expected to reach the high 70s with a slight chance of again topping out near 80. Some clouds will remain in the area with an increase of cloud cover in the late afternoon. On Wednesday, we'll see another slight cool-off with highs only reaching the upper 60s. We'll continue to see a mix of partly to mostly cloudy skies along with a light breeze. Thursday will be a lot more cloudy and temperatures will rebound into the 70s. The breezy conditions will continue, but luckily there's no chance gusty winds between now and the end of the week. Looking ahead, the mild conditions will stick around to the end of the week before another round of windy weather returns to start out the first weekend of spring break.
The suspension of head men's basketball coach Mark Adams has taken over most of the sports headlines here in the Hub City today, but there was still plenty of other action happening in Tech athletics over the weekend.
MCTV's Joshua Ermis joins us again with a look at highlights, scores, and more in sports. Joshua?
Thank you, Makayla and Elena. Texas Tech men's and women's basketball closed out the regular season over the weekend. Tech baseball traveled to the home of the reigning World Series champions for the Shriners Children's College Classic, and softball began their first home stretch of the season with the Janine McCaney Memorial Classic. We'll start with Lady Raider basketball. Lady Raider basketball traveled to Ames, Iowa to close out the regular season against the Iowa State Cyclones. After getting off to a hot 9-2 start, the Lady Raiders would fall behind 16-13 after one quarter and wouldn't regain the lead. After closing the gap to 18-16 early in the second quarter, Iowa State pulled away handedly the rest of the game as Tech fell to the Cyclones 76-52. In the loss, freshman Bailey Maupin put up a team-high 10 points. Bryn Gerlich had 6 points in 19 minutes after sitting out the win against TCU last week. Texas Tech finishes with the 8th seed in the Big 12 with a regular season record of 18-13 overall and 6-12 in conference play. They will play 9th-seeded Kansas State in the first game of the Big 12 Conference Championships in the Municipal Auditorium in Kansas City this Thursday. That game will have a 5 p.m. tip-off. Texas Tech men's basketball celebrated senior night at the USA to close out the regular season against Oklahoma State. The lone senior Kevin O'Banner was honored before the game with a touching tribute to his time at Texas Tech. The game itself was a similar story to many of Tech's conference battles this season. Oklahoma State got off to a big early lead before Tech cut the score to 35-32 at the half. In the second half, Tech went down by as many as 13 points before eventually taking a 63-62 lead off a Jalen Tyson three-pointer. It would be the first and only Tech lead of the game as the Cowboys fought back to take the game 71-68. This was Tech's 7th Big 12 loss by 5 points or less. They also lost to Oklahoma State 71-68 on the road earlier this season. Texas Tech now sits at 16-15 overall and 5-13 in the Big 12, with a lot up in the air after the suspension of head coach Mark Adams. 9th seed Tech will face 8th seed West Virginia this Wednesday to kick off the Big 12 Conference Championships at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. That game will have a 6 p.m. tip-off. Moving to the Diamond, Texas Tech baseball traveled to Minute Maid Park in Houston over the weekend to compete in the Shriners Children's College Classic. Number 24 Texas Tech suffered their first loss of the season to start their Shriners Classic stint, losing a close one to Rice with a score of 3-2. The game was tied at 2 apiece heading into the bottom of the 7th when Rice scored the final run of the game, handing Tech the loss. In the second game, pitcher Mason Molina's career-high 11 strikeouts gave Tech the bounce-back win against Michigan 10-7. Then Tech closed out their stay in Houston with a 4-2 loss in 16 innings against 15th-ranked Texas A&M on Sunday night, or I guess eventually Monday morning, finishing their Shriners Children's Classic run with a record of 1-2. Texas Tech now stands at 11-2 and will return home to host one game against New Mexico on Thursday and a series against the Iowa Hawkeyes over the weekend. Finally, Texas Tech softball hosted the Janine McCaney Memorial Classic over the weekend to start their first home stretch of the season. Tech played 5 games between Thursday and Saturday, going 3-2 in that stretch. Their most dominant outing came in the first game of the weekend on Thursday, beating North Dakota 13-5 in the only battle between the two. They followed that by going 1-1 against both Seton Hall and Rutgers. On Friday, Tech lost to Rutgers 4-8 after an explosive 5-run fourth inning from Rutgers but bounced back against Seton Hall later in the day, winning that game 5-3. They closed out the Classic by getting their win back against Rutgers 6-5 on Saturday before dropping their last game of the Classic to Seton Hall 2-3. Texas Tech softball now sits at 15-7 after the Janine McCaney Memorial Classic and will host the Texas Tech Invitational at Rocky Johnson Field starting this Friday against Buffalo. That's it for Texas Tech Sports. Now back to Elena and Makayla.
Thanks, Joshua. So, Makayla, can you believe that spring break starts in less than a week?
No, I'm so excited. What about you?
Me too. I'm looking forward to it. That's all for today's edition of the MCTV Weekday Update.
Thanks so much for joining us, and be sure to check the ttuhub.net every day for more news. We'll see you on Thursday.